What is up, people? Jean Carlos here with the Total Body Training Podcast, and I am with Janet Trevino. Say hey, Janet.
Hey, y'all.
And Janet is a cuddle coach, a cuddle specialist.
Platonic touch specialist.
There we go.
Professional cuddler. Fill in the blank.
Yeah, she does that thing. And today we're going to be talking all about what that means. I'd heard about Janet a while ago, and then I listened to her TED Talk, and I really liked the information that Janet was talking about the importance of platonic touch and cuddling and getting comfortable with consensual platonic touch, which we'll go into talking about. I'm butchering the words here, but let's jump into it. So how are you doing?
Let me ask you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I feel the instinct or impulse to touch your knee, because I just want to connect,
Yeah.
us as Latinx, may I have your permission?
Yes, you have my permission.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
and
I
would like that.
All right, and so if you would like to touch any of my hands, if
Okay.
you want to reach out and grab me, I give you permission as well during this interview.
Awesome.
Because I'm sure
That's
none
exciting.
of your interviews you've probably touched the people you've touched.
No, I've done like a little hug at the end, but the thing is when you do the hug at the end, if you haven't initiated anything before that, it feels very forced. So you get in front of people and you're like, like it feels so stiff. And I'm like, there needed to be a little bit more rapport physically for us to make this photo look more natural. Yeah. All right, cool.
So we're gonna
that might
back
happen.
that way,
Yeah, that might happen.
Cool.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so first of all, I want you to tell us a little bit about what cuddling means or what platonic touch means for you.
So basically, we were born with this need for touch. And if we understand the fundamentals of our human body, if we are not touched, we die, right? Just like infants. And so what it means is basically continuing the thing that our instinct as children to continue throughout life. Oftentimes when we hit puberty, it's like, okay, we don't touch anymore, especially in this society. In other cultures around the world, touch between men who are heterosexual or women, there's still touch happening in their communities. But in our culture, at some point, we're like, okay, it's done. No more touching. And in schools, of course, we see that the touching is discouraged. So it's basically platonic touch is encouraging the kind of touch that we experience as children throughout the rest of our lives, which means affectionate, nurturing, non-sexual. It's just because we care about each other. It's friendly. It's just this way of connecting that it really is natural, but again, we're conditioned out of it.
And so, that being said, what would you say the value of platonic touch is? Because, we're enculturated or taught that you don't, touch people when you go out, and you're not touchy-feely with people unless it's to lead to something that's more than just that, right? Unless it's something that's going to be sexual. And so what would you say then is the value of platonic touch to people? What will that do for you?
Okay, so that question, I want to ask you a question back. What is the value of drinking water and eating food?
It's sustenance. It's what keeps you going.
That's what touch is.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at Maslow's pyramid of needs, the bottom part, which is rest, eating, drinking, sometimes they put their sex, but what it is just physical connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's as important as eating and drinking. And so the value, it's wow, it's your life. So if you look at how the body works, when we are touched, we lower cortisol levels.
Mm-hmm.
Our heart rate slows down. It allows us to, all the systems. I don't even know how to make the list of all the things. It reduces inflammation in the body. The studies have been done around massage, right? But there's been no studies based on just cuddling. I get that, and I think about it's such it's so hard to describe because I don't even know, honestly. The question is difficult because it's the
yeah,
value.
No, I get it. Maybe
I'm
framing the question in a way. The reason I asked the question that way is because it has this kind of Eurocentric kind of spin to it, because of how we see intimacy in America and how we see intimacy in a lot of Western countries, where it's something that's very, you reserve that for sex only. And so that's why I kind of ask it in that kind of dry, you look like you really want to say something.
Yeah.
Go ahead, no, please don't.
So there's racism at the base of all this.
Okay, all right.
So back, you're talking about Eurocentric. Hundreds of years ago, we have the five senses, which are, taste, smell, touch, hearing, and seeing. A long time ago, what again our European ancestors decided is that seeing and hearing were the most important senses. The other senses, which is like taste and touch and smell, were lesser. The people that were of the southern hemisphere were much more into touch and into taste and to smell. And that's one of the ways in which we actually oppressed people. The people those were the senses that were more important, were demonized. And then of course the brown people. And then the people that were, again, more rational, more what you could see and what you could hear. You trusted those senses. So that's how the polarization of all the senses happened. And it directly is connected to race. Thing that people don't. And so if you look up the book, so The History of Touch, the author begins this process of explaining this and how touch, that's why you're not going to see touch in research. You're not going to see the values of touch. There's minimal out there. And so it makes sense. Like, it just on a historical understanding, we have marginalized touch because it's not something we can trust. It's not something that we don't value it. We think, again, as long as you're rational, you're thinking, you're hearing, you're great. But that's actually not true. And it's very white European, because again, cultures like in the Southern Hemisphere, there's a lot of touch that's happening. They haven't made those distinctions around.
In my culture, there certainly is. Like, people are very, when they see each other, they kiss each other, they hug each other. There's all of that within Puerto Rican culture, and that's not the case when you're in America. Like, when you're in America, it's very, very different, or it's seen as being strange.
Well, the fact that we're holding hands, it's like we're lovers. And
no.
It's like, we don't have to be.
No, exactly. But here, it's perceived that way. And so, that being said, how do you think... So since you think that this is, or you believe that this is something that's valuable, and lots of other people believe that, how do you shift our culture into feeling like something like this is normal and okay for people to want to do, for people to see as being something that's acceptable?
So this is personally, for me, I definitely want people to feel like they don't have to want this or ever have to have it. So versus just accepting where you're at, if this is uncomfortable, don't do it. Right, so getting honest about, you don't ever have to touch anybody you don't want to touch, or you don't ever have to be touched in a way you don't want to be touched. That right there is a huge problem. We aren't even there. We don't even have that in our culture. Often people receive a lot of unwanted touch, and what I want first is a world where the touch that people are receiving is the touch that they want.
And so that kind of gets into the consensual platonic touch that you talk about a little bit in your TED Talk, I believe. So can you back up and explain what that is and the value of that? At least, go ahead.
Right. So for people to feel safe, right? For me to feel safe with you and you with me, we need to have an understanding. Not only if there's going to be touch, where are you touching? To be able to both feel really good about it. Feeling good's really, really important. And then secondly, what does it mean? The fact that we're holding hands, for me it means that we're just having a special moment together. But the moment I walk out of here, it didn't mean anything more than just being here with you.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of meanings that people add to things. Well, if this person touches me, it must mean that they want something. Or, again, we have a lot of confusion around, we're trying to interpret touch. And so for me, consent includes being really clear who's touching who and who's benefiting from touch. And then what does it mean?
And so what do those sessions look like with you? When someone comes to you and they want the kind of offer that the kind of cuddle sessions that you offer, what does that look like?
So I have 3 different platonic sessions. The first one is an empowered session. The second one is a supportive session. And then I have my other business, which is called Retouch, which is rehabilitative touch therapy. So the first one, an empowered session, is a client comes in. I give them homework because I think people still need some resources, and I ask them, what kind of touch would you like to receive, what would feel good, or a position, and they tell me, I would like to hold you and to be seated like this or to lie down like this. I'm like, yes. Or they'll ask me, is it okay if I play with your hair? Or is it okay, so there's this conversation that's happening between 2 people before anything happens. And then we just adjust if changes are needed, if things are wanted, I'll check in. That could be an hour up to 10 hours. I've had a 10-hour session one time, which is all day.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. So that's the possibility. And then a supportive session is where a client's like, I don't want to have to think about it. I don't know. And maybe they're always in leadership at work, or like they're always in control, and I just want to come and just like let go. So I'll ask additional questions to kind of figure out, like, are you more of a caregiver, or are you more like, what's your personality? And based on that information, I design a session. It's a little bit more money, because it's like obviously more work for me. And then it's on me to check in with them continuously and give them tools so they can tell me, yes, I like this, can we make a change, or can we stop altogether, right? So then they're giving me some feedback, but I've kind of done my research and given them what I hope that they want. And they still may not like it, but again, then we're adjusting in the session. And the last one is retouch, which is for those clients, and I will say, let me think, it's been all women up to this point, who cannot touch, who either have trauma or who have a condition in their life, something happened, that they are uncomfortable with touch, but they see people touching in public and they wish that they could do that. And they ache. Like, I wish I could hold someone, or wish they could hold me, and I just can't do it. I'm too scared. I react. And so I've created a program that allows for people to begin introducing touch. And we don't actually do touch to begin with. We get them connected with their bodies and with the signals. And then very slowly, like, I could use that. Can I have that hand? Can I have your hand? It's like right here. Give me a finger. It's like we begin here. And then what are you experiencing? What are you noticing? I mean, this is where it starts. Where there's no cuddling. And just this, like, it's amazing. Like, people, when they realize, and actually, let me go back. I hold my finger up and I tell them, when you're ready, you touch my finger. So giving them power, especially if for them, touch was always taken. This is an opportunity for them to actually take themselves, with my permission. So yeah, there's a lot. So those are the 3 major sessions I do around touch.
Which ones do people come to you for the most often? Like, what would you say of those 3? Which one do people seek you out for the most?
I say the retouch is difficult. I don't have a lot of clients, and that's just because there's so much stigma, right? And but people have flown in to see me. So there's been more of a commitment. Like, they'll say, I've looked everywhere online. I've never met anyone who does what you do. I'm flying in from Minnesota, for a weekend intensive to do the work. So I think there's more of a commitment there for that. And then, but for the everyday kind of like once a week or once a month kind of folks, I'd say empowered. Because even if they begin with a supportive session where I'm kind of creating it, at some point they realize, I know what I want. Now I'm ready to ask. I'm like, great. So then you decide.
So then, like, that being said, are the majority of, what's your demographic? I know that this is something that's for everyone, but like,
Right.
I mean, like, do you have mostly men? Do you have
Mostly men for the platonic, like the sessions that are just like cuddling. Mostly men. I've had a handful of women, but yeah, I think, I'll say. And then for my retouch, it's all been women.
Yeah.
Or as I would say, gender queer.
Okay, all right. And which one of those are you the most passionate about at this moment?
I love a challenge. I love like figuring things out and being in the moment and being intuitive. So yeah, the retouch ones are just it's just like, wow, fun. Like, what's gonna, because you get to see right before your eyes people taking risks and trying things out that they've never done before. So that's exciting and that's fun. And then of course I just love I love the sessions where I'm just lying there. I mean, literally, I'm getting paid to just lie around. So like, if someone wants to hold me, I'm like, yeah, hold me for an hour. And
why not?
Those are fun, because I'm the worst thing that happens, because often the question is like, what happens if somebody wants something sexual, right? I'm like, that's not my concern. A bigger concern for me is, what happens if I fall asleep? Like, that happens more often than like the sexual question. I'm like, I have to stay awake. That's hard.
The coffee. Or that would be what I would do. I would just drink coffee. And
I don't even drink coffee.
Oh, so. Good for you. I drink too much of it. So
that's like the hardest thing. It's when people just want to be really
relaxed.
Quiet, and they're like breathing like this like perfect rhythm, and I'm just in their arms. I'm ouch. Oh, God.
No, like, I guess we can bring up sex a little bit. What do you do if someone does bring up wanting something more than that? Before we started this, we discussed this, and I think this is important for two reasons. First, I think there might be people who would like to receive services like cuddle services, but could feel concerned that they would become aroused. That's a concern, and that's understandable. And then, like, second, I think there are some people. Oh God, I lost track of what I was going to say. Well, you tell me. Like, you talk to me.
Yeah.
What was it? My original question was.
Sex.
Oh yeah. So like, what do you do if someone? So she brought up. I know, right? Oh my God.
Like, he's already losing it.
Yeah, I know, right? I just bring it up and it's.
That's it. It's gone. It's all went down there.
No, like, seriously though, like you brought up a guy who had said, I hope that's okay if I bring that up. Like, you've had people say, like, when you ask them where they want to be touched, they'll be like, oh, I want to be touched down here. You know, like, what?
It is so much fun.
Okay.
Okay, I love this because right off the bat I know how, like, that's vulnerable, right? They're being really honest. They're not scared of me. Because so, you know, this is a platonic session. You come in anyway, and you ask for sex? Like, that takes some serious, my balls are pretty weak. I don't know what you want to call it, like, cojones, you know, like, that's some serious shit, like, for you to ask that. So, I'm intrigued by it, someone like that. But look, let's go back to, like, there is a fear. I've had many people say, I'm afraid to come and see you because what if I get aroused? And they already feel like they've broken some rule. And it's already shame-filled, right? Or, like, the arousal, like, as if arousal's bad. And I think in society, men having erections, like, there's a lot of shame. Like, if you don't stand up, right? If you get an erection,
where are the books? I've got to cover up.
What if we lived in a world where an erection meant nothing more than just, yo, you're healthy. That's it. It works. And then, like, I would say 40, 60% are afraid of an erection. 40% wish they could get an erection. They're just like, damn it, I wish I could have that.
I know, it's like you spend the whole first part of your, like, youth life as a man, like, being afraid you'll pop a boner in, like, a class, and you do, and you have all these fears that are surrounded around, and then before you know it, you're not doing those as often.
So then it comes down to, like, for me, it's not about sexual or non-sexual. And I'm speaking for myself and not for the industry.
Yeah.
Because I am also an industry leader, and I realize that this is I know that my word carries a lot of weight. So for me, with a client, I want them to get away from this idea of it being a non-sexual session. I really want them to focus on wanted versus unwanted touch. Wanted versus unwanted experience. And they could have an erection, maybe an unwanted thing. That's okay. And so we just normalize it. Like, that's cool. But when we're looking at touch, what is the wanted touch here? So let's get away from it being sexual. And I cannot even begin to, like, get into your head. We may be having a non-sexual session, but you could be all sexual up here. And that, I can't know that. So what I can know is wanted versus unwanted touch. So if we're doing cuddling, is this a wanted touch? Is this feeling good to you? And I'll be like, yes, or no. For me, I know in a platonic session, I will only do the things that are platonic. I can't get turned on easily. But just because, I don't know, so for whatever reason, I think because of how my biology is, if I don't want it, it's not going to happen. And I think with a lot of women, maybe they can relate, like, if I don't want to get turned on, I'm not going to get turned on. Like, it's just not going to happen. Just from, like, cuddling. And so I can keep that part turned off, but say somebody else can't. They can still receive wanted touch with it not, with an erection's irrelevant. Like, it's not important. So what I've noticed is erections come and go, and like they don't stay. I mean, and it's okay. We just don't give it any attention. We just don't focus on it. And I want them to know as a client that they are welcome as they are. So erection or not, with their struggles, whatever it is, I want them to feel like they can be there for the wanted touch that they want, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is, like, an erection is like a form of, like, arousal. So you can, you know, there have been
millions.
Yeah, exactly. You could just get, like, nervous, and all of a sudden you have a boner, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm about to give a TED talk, or, like, I'm about to, you know, speak in front of this group of people. That's happened to me. Like, like it's just, you just have this reaction. It's like, I'm not wanting this right now. Why are you here? And so while you explain that, the depth to which you explain that, I think I better understand myself as a man. So thank you for that.
So like, I just want all erections, or penises, they have their own mind, and I don't mind them. I let them do their thing, and I stay with the person, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And again, destigmatizing erections, de-shaming them, allowing them to be. Mm-hmm. It's part of what I do.
So you mentioned to me that, like, you have had people be like, hey, I really want
Those
this.
were explicit. Yeah,
yes. Okay. Can you explain so that people can kind of understand what the process there is? Because you mentioned that maybe there's something more underlying that you find out about the person.
So, okay, I'm going to make a really big confession, which is not going to make any sense. My shadow side, my dark side, is I am a psychological sadist.
Okay.
And Google it if you don't know what that sadism means. But psychological, I'm not here to torture anybody physically. So when someone's like, I really want to have sex with you, or my gosh, I just would love to touch your naked body, I look at them and I'm like, thank you so much for telling me that. It's, I really appreciate you being honest with me. I want this to be a space where you can tell me anything and ask for anything. Like, ask me anything that you want. And no. And then watch them go through this process of like, oh shit, okay, I heard a no. And then, but they're like, we're like touching, right? There's a cuddling thing happening. And then I would say, tell me more. Like, what else is there? Like, tell me about this. Or no, maybe I wouldn't even say no. I may say, tell me more. Tell me what is it about this that's important to you? How would that enrich your life? How would that enrich this moment? And to get that information and to come down, like, as we dig deeper and deeper. And oftentimes it just comes down to basic need to being seen, to being heard, to belong, to feeling like they're worthy of that. Sometimes, this is really a lot of fun, I see clients coming in at a certain childhood age, like a developmental age. The 0 to 3 age clients are looking just for mama. They didn't have that, like, let me hold you and take care of you, you're going to be safe, right? They're not looking for something sexual. The like 3 to 6 are more like exploratory and curious, and like they're just exploring as little kids. From like 6 to 9, they're challenging, pushing buttons. And it's those clients who are like, what happens if I ask this question that's forbidden? Like, will you put the boundary? Can I trust you? And it's that playful, and I see him like, I see this little 8-year-old boy who just wants to know, am I gonna hold the boundary? And I'm like, I'm gonna hold the boundary. I'm here. You can trust me. And sometimes when they realize I said no, they can go, okay, thank you.
It's almost like a sense of relief that they don't have to commit to that.
Yeah.
So.
And then of course, there's the 9 to 12, and then like the teenagers show up, and it's these adults get stuck at this really important time in their life where they're figuring out who they are, and they show up in the sessions.
Now, what is your background in this, so that people kind of understand? Because you're very equipped, you have a very intense knowledge of psychology and human behavior to be comfortable enough to make that assessment about someone. And so I think that people would benefit to know what your credentials are to do that, to be able to speak that way, because it takes a certain level of like confidence with yourself and with understanding another person to be able to say it like that.
So I don't have any traditional credentials. If I did, I couldn't do this work. I just want to make sure people understood. If I got, if I was a counselor or psychologist, I can't touch people, right? So just right off the bat, I didn't go down that route. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in theology. So, that's
right. Yeah, you told me that.
So like, Bible theology and church history. So I mean, I've loved this idea of like who we are as people and how we got here, and theology and religion and all of that. I mean, constantly looking into playing into like what that all means. And then I'm a mother. I mean, mother of 4 kids. So I took a break from all of that and just focused on my children. And that time, I did the trainings around like nonviolent communication. I went to like weekend experiences where I worked on like my own issues and my own problems, leadership classes, and so I've done a lot of work for myself. That's first and foremost. I do a lot of reading. And then when I came into sexuality, I went to get certifications in certain things that I was interested in, workshops that I wanted to lead. And then moving into when I realized I wanted to do platonic touch and cuddling, there is a training online that's called Cuddlers. It's relatively inexpensive. It's not deep. It's not meant to be. But its focus is on boundaries and communication, right? So we're not really teaching people how to cuddle, but you're like teaching people how to have the communication, the conversation around this kind of stuff. So there is that, like I'm certified there. But just, again, and then just being out there in the world, engaging with people. I'm a life coach, so I've done life coach training, just picking up stuff, and that's, I don't know.
Oh no, I was just
I mean,
wondering,
that's like
because the life coach thing kind of flows into it. Like, yeah, I mean, so, I guess, where does the life coaching, did you get that after you started doing the cuddling? What does a session like that look like? What do you offer people when they talk to you? What are they generally looking for when you talk to somebody for life coaching?
So I'm not traditional in any sense of the way. Like I'm very kinesthetic. So if somebody's like, I really want to work through issues, but I just want to talk about them, I'm like, fantastic, because I don't either. Like, so when something is, I'm like a bot. I'm into the body, right? So if you're having issues, and I notice you're tight, and fuck it, let's get up, let's move, and I've gotten into like wrestling matches and like pushing and like really getting people to activate the body's knowledge and truth as part of creating the pathway that they need to go down. I feel like I have a skill in intuition, like trying to figure like where people get stuck. Like, what is the issue that I'm like, okay, I'm hearing your story, this is it right here, whatever that thing is. And like, tell me more about this. And then unpacking that. So I just have a keen way of like being able to cipher through a lot of information to find the thing that I think is the key to unlocking things. And then they just unlock, and that's really cool. And I think it goes back to my history background. Look at all the history and figure out, okay, what is it in history that was the thing that turned everything? I love that. Like, that's I'm most passionate about, like trying to figure out why we are the way we are. And so I'll just to clarify what a counselor is versus a coach. Counselors are looking at the past, like they're looking at all the shit in your childhood, and while I think I can play around in that playground a little bit, I don't prefer to. I'll grab a thing, we'll pull one thing out just to bring it to the present. But a coach, what they do is they look at the present and the future. It's like, who the fuck are you right now? Mm-hmm. This little thing in the past, that fucked you up. Okay, let's bring it here to this present. Who do you want to be? And how do we get you to that place? But how do we break this shit that like you're still stuck? So today I had a screaming session with a client who he never told me he was full of anger, but I could see all of this frustration and anger, and I can't be me. Like, well, then let's break it. And so, we have a temper tantrum on the bed where we're just kicking and screaming, and, the most important thing is that body connection. So as a life coach, I'm not just listening to you and hearing you. I'm also looking at the body. Let's get up. Let's do something about this. Let's look in front of a mirror. Let's dance. What happens if we, do something together? That's so important to me, that people make it sure it's the whole body, like total body training.
It wraps that in perfectly.
So yeah, that's basically my life coaching.
Yeah.
And so I love walking too. I take people on walks, and for those who need to be moving to talk, because that's another thing. It's like unlocking the truth through walking.
Keep talking to me. I'm going to change one thing real quick. I just need to be able to see where I'm at. Okay, so you're saying, all right, let me get back on track here mentally. Sure. All right, now, what has this done for you personally? I didn't ask you that question.
Just kidding.
No, I mean really though. I mean, I understand like you have this career, and it seems like you've been doing very well for yourself doing this. Is there anything that you have gotten out of working with people that you didn't anticipate getting out of these sessions? Anything you learned about yourself?
I'll be completely honest with you. I don't give anything for free anymore. Mm-hmm. So everything that I'm offering is something that I've learned for myself. Like, it all began with me doing my work, And then now what I'm doing is basically giving the things that I've been doing for me. So none of this is outside of me. It's always been internalized, right? All the things I provide. So I give it to people, and I used to give it to for free, like friends and whomever, because I wanted to. It felt good. And then now I'm starting to value myself. I'm going, no, I think the business part has changed me. It's made me realize that I'm a fucking badass, and I'm really good at this work, and I deserve to get paid for it. And now I can support my family. And like that's the thing that it's done. Making the business made it so that I can do what I love.
So would you say it's like a level of confidence maybe in yourself and what you do that you've developed?
And being public about it. I think that I was too scared to let people know this is what I do. And now that people come back to me like, that really helped me, or thank you, whatever it is that I get, makes it so that's like, wow, yeah, I am. It gave me this confidence to push forward, to keep trying out new things, to make a difference, to trust my intuition. So I'm in a session, I create a plan, okay, this is what I'm going to work on with this client, whatever it is. It never turns out that way. Like in the moment, I hear this thing that's like, do this. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that's awkward. I don't want to do that. Like, what if they don't go with me? What if they don't trust me? And I'll look at them and go, will you trust me? Because I'm going to ask you to do something that's really weird. Just trust me on this. I'll see how it goes. And they're like, okay. And they do, which, okay, that right there is like, oh, they trusted me, right?
Yeah.
It's huge. And then we do the thing, and they're like, that's exactly what I needed. And I'm like, oh, phew. Like every time, like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I can continue to trust myself. Trust it. Yeah.
So, could you give us an example of that? Like the screaming thing, right? That would be.
That
an
was
example.
a big one.
Yeah.
So to anchor that, because this screaming thing just happened today. That's why it's really fresh, like before I came here. So to anchor it, I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm holding this guy. He's semi-trembling still, right? He's processing what just happened. He's telling me what he's noticing in his body. Pretty big moment. I no need to anchor it. There needs to be like, okay, you can go home. I can't send him home like this. So I think, mirror. Okay, pull out the big mirror. What am I going to do in front of the mirror? Okay, well, he needs to look at himself. He needs to look at himself angry. That's scary. Especially if there was already reluctance around getting angry is huge. So now, would you be willing to look at yourself angry? Mm-hmm. And what if he said to me, I don't want to? Because he has every right to. I can't make anybody do anything. But I'm like, trust me. Just do this for me. And if you don't want to, then just say no, right? There's always the consent. And he's like, okay. And like just the bravery that shows up. I'm like, all right. So then it's the anger. Show yourself angry. And then it's okay. Close your eyes again. And I said, this time, and I guided him through a visualization to get really grounded and get really confident, which is this has been his issues. I want to be confident again. It's like, I want you to get as confident as you can. We described all the different things about his body. He's rooted into the ground, like all the things that people do in spiritual visualizations. And then he opened his eyes. And he looked at himself. And he later tells me, I've never looked at myself in the mirror before. Like to brush his teeth, but never looked. And I said, this is your rebirth. This is important for you. And then I had him look for about 3 minutes, a long time, close your eyes. This time, this is where again it was like, shoot, this is my intuition speaking, and I didn't know how it was going to work. I put some music on. And I said, and I didn't even know if he could dance. What if he couldn't dance? What if he couldn't move his body? I didn't know, but I'm like, screw it, we'll just like try this. Just move your body to the music, whatever feels good. And he starts moving. Like, okay, he has a rhythm. Because people have issues. There's a lot of people that I know that are like, I can't move, right? He did it, and suddenly like, I had invited him to look at himself move and then smile. So the person that showed up at my door, this is actually, they've had a few sessions with me, was this completely depressed, cannot, this is the last attempt to try to fix himself, it's his life is done. Completely shut down, completely unable to do anything, scared. And then at that moment, looking at himself, moving his body, and I invite him to smile. this huge smile.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I didn't know if that would work. I didn't know if he was going to follow me. I've never done that before for anybody. So most of my sessions are unique because I don't know what's going to happen. And he trusts me. And he did it. And he's like, he's shocked at himself. Like, I don't even know who I am. Like, yeah. So, again, this happened today. I'll check in with him tomorrow, see how he is. But just physically, he said, I feel lighter. I feel changed. And I think there's many different ways of going about this. I'm definitely not saying this is like the one way. But,
No, yeah.
But there is something about getting people's bodily stories to the surface, right? So the anger was stored in his body. Here, he's like, I think I can just think it away or make it go away. It's not going away. Getting him to like bring that out. And now there's this hole. And what are we going to fill it with? So filling it with something that he wants. He asked, I want to be more confident. Great, well, let's show up. And because he had it before. He's like, I remember a time when I was, and I lost it. It's beautiful. So it's that intuitive, like I'm just making it up as I go along. But I've done enough like trainings and little things here and there. I've heard enough things. I read books. I'm like, okay, it's a really good concept, a really good idea. I'm reading some books. I've never met anybody who does bioenergetics, but
Yes, I'm familiar with bio. The reason I'm familiar with that is I've never practiced it, but I'm familiar with it because of Elliot Hulse. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a YouTuber who was like one of those first YouTubers who, like one of the first ones, before like everybody was on there talking about whatever. One of the first fitness people on there, but he would talk about fitness and about movement, ecstatic dance, which you were talking about, and how that releases things. And you talked about how like movement does that. And actually that was one of the first people who got me interested in weightlifting, because I felt like I needed to get something out. Like our slogan here is get lean, gain muscle, and build confidence. And so I needed to work on confidence. Yeah, and so like weightlifting was a way of me getting that out. But he brought up bioenergetics. Yeah.
So the founder is Alexander Lowen, and he's passed.
I'm not horribly familiar with it.
No.
So
I have some of his books, and so I read them, and it talks a lot about like I don't know.
So we're good.
The need to process the feelings and the repression, all the emotions, that are stuck in our bodies, and that there's ways to do that. And so how emotions that are repressed and stuck, they shape our bodies. Mm-hmm. And so people that are right, or
tightness in the shoulders.
Exactly, or just like
necks that are forward. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean all the different ways in which, and it's not until we can actually deal with the emotions that are behind those things that those things can get corrected. So going to the chiropractor or weightlifting is great, but like just doing the physical things without dealing with the underlying issues, it's counterproductive. And so, for me, it's like how do we bring those to the surface in a way that people feel safe to do that? Is basically what I want to do. And with touch, right, like, because there's no touch and talk therapy or counseling, it's harder to get out. But when I touch people and I hold them or like just caress their arms, for whatever reason, it's like truth telling. People start saying things that they've like, I've never said this before. I'm like, because it's in the muscles, it's in the body. Mm-hmm. That's where the stuff is stored. And so when you start touching, it's like it gets released. It feels safe to come out.
I mean, there's even, are you familiar with epigenetics a little bit? I mean, there's even stuff in our DNA that we carry. I mean, that's scientific too. That's not, that's hard. There's hard evidence that suggests that things that your parents did, if you're not familiar with it, I guess epigenetics is the idea that trauma that your parents experienced or that your grandparents experienced get encoded into your DNA. And this isn't like, I hate to use this word, like, how do I say this? This isn't like fringe science. Like, this is well documented now with people who experience, like, whose past family experienced trauma. They've done it with rats. They see that, like, the rats that of parents who were starved tend to carry certain kinds of strands of DNA, or it's encoded in their DNA that they've had a family who's had some kind of trauma. And so now they're saying, there's a whole book about it, about like if your parents like had some trauma at some point you need to talk to them about it, because you'll experience it in some kind of micro way as you age. I don't know how familiar you are with that stuff, but I mean, there's stories within us, within our bodies, that we're not even aware of, you know. And on top of that, we have our own stories, or stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, the stories that we shape as we get older, and all of that kind of plays a role in it. So I do think there is a tremendous value to movement, and then also addressing what's going on with you, and like why you're holding on to this in your body. I mean, I know for me, I mean, from experience, I was just talking about this on my Instagram. I'm talking too much.
No, you're good. No, please.
Like, I was talking about how I noticed this the other day. I would, like, when I get frustrated about something, or I get frazzled, my hands, I will take my hands and I'll just do something like that. I'll find, and I like look down, I'm like, why am I holding, you know what I mean? And like, I'll like, you know, I'll get all like tense in my back, and I'm like, whoa, hold on for a second. And you know, sometimes you got to step back and be like, why am I doing that? And if you don't notice that, what that turns into is my neck really hurts. That turns into my biceps, my pecs are in pain. Like, why is that happening? And it might be that you need to resolve something within yourself. And if you can resolve that, you can start to also work on the physical. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
More or less.
So it's looking at, again, the whole body.
Yes.
Right? Our bodies are telling us exactly what our bodies need to release that stuff.
Yeah.
And we just need to listen. And often we're just too busy to, you know, we feel like we have to make the body do things, or break in the body, or, you know, like, you know, fix it in some other way. And it's like, no, the body wants to correct. And again, figuring it out, like, what is the thing that made it get out of shape, or get into that position that's really painful.
Yeah, and this is almost going to sound silly, but you'll understand what I'm saying. So, a long time ago, I was watching this show called The Dog Whisperer. Are you familiar with The Dog Whisperer?
That Caesar guy?
Yeah, Caesar guy. Yeah, he like helps dogs, and he he was dealing with dogs who are scared of things, and he was dealing with a dog who's scared of taking baths. And so what he did was he took the dog to like water, and he showed the dog the water or whatever. And the instant the dog shows up to see water, it tucks its tail, it's all scared. And that's what we do when we're dealing with trauma and things like that. We constrict our bodies. That's me, like holding my hand tightly. And then what he did was he would like stroke the dog's tail anytime it'd be around water, to be like, hey, like this is okay. Like, hey, like this, what's happening right now, it's okay, you're safe, like it's fine. And through that process and through calming the dog down, the dog was able to work through that. And you might think, well, that's a dog, but we're a lot like dogs, you know, in our, go ahead.
So it's like with breathing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of, we haven't talked about this,
Oh,
the value
please.
of
Yeah.
breathing in all of this kind of work, and just connecting with that life force, right? Our breath is everything. And so when we have that shallow breath, and I'm looking at nonverbals in people when they're shallow, they're like almost hyperventilating, right? It's a panic moment, right? So it's like, okay, if they start to slightly panic, or there's the panic line, it's right there, they can see it, like, just deepen your breath. There are parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system is built this in for us, that if we really want to relax, we just have to lengthen our exhale. The inhale can be whatever. It's the exhale which activates the parasympathetic nervous system that allows us to be like, and we can, I don't want to say trick, but we can show the body that we're safe, just with an exhale. So there's a mental part, like we can control some of this, but often we're not responding from our thinking. The body just starts freaking out, especially if it's something that's like trauma from epigenetics, or from before we were verbal, or pre-verbal, or our birth. I'm really big on birth imprinting. So when I notice that someone's having a really hard time breaking through, I'll ask them, what's your birth story? And often what happened at their birth is still what they're reliving. So like there was trauma, there was struggle, they couldn't do it. Or if they're the kind of person that's like, man, I've never been able to like get anywhere in life, I don't have the thing, I find out that they were a cesarean birth, right? Because they didn't have a chance to actually exert themselves, right? They were just taken out. Somebody else did the thing. So they've done a lot of studies around the power of story. If you rewrite your own story and you believe it, you can actually change your cells. I mean, like your mind believes what you say. So if you change your history, like again, there's more power in our story than there is in our history.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Mhm.
If you choose to believe that you are a powerful, amazing, wonderful, beautiful person, you're going to start living that way. But if you, that's your story. If you believe a different story about yourself, you'll start living like that. It's again, people that do like positive affirmations and reframing.
NLP, neuro linguistic programming,
Exactly.
right? This would be kind of like a.
That's been, I suppose, so that's been debunked. But like, but there's, I mean, I don't know. Again, to the extent of where like science is, so they said no way. But just the thinking about like we have, our cells are listening. Our body, you know, this goes into quantum physics and to like, you know, where we put our attention and our belief in our, you know, whatever it is, we have the power to create that, make it bigger. Law of attraction, if you believe in that as well. And that's a big part of this is in the work. So again, we've gone from like platonic touch to.
Oh, I know. We're kind of like.
And that's cool.
Getting a little bit.
Because it's about the whole person. So I've had people come have a great touch session, but it's not complete. It's not what they're needing something more, something that's deeper. And if they're able to share that with me and I can access it, then we can work through that. But then I have people that come just one time and they never come back. Or they'll go see other people that do the work too. They're looking for compatibility. Maybe I'm not the right person for them. Anyway.
No, I mean, I get that. I mean, I tell
Get
people
that
all the time, yeah, I mean, no, you don't have to work out with me. I get people all the time who, this isn't the right fit, you know? And you just have to let that person go, you know? So, okay, so, who are the people in your industry who are the gatekeepers? I know you're one of the, I mean, because you have people coming from out of state, like people coming from everywhere. Who are some other people in your industry who are well known?
So those who have created trainings are really important.
Yeah.
So you have cuddlist.com.
Mm-hmm.
You also have Samantha Hess. She was like the first public person. She was on America's Got Talent, actually, twice for cuddling. This is
On
like
a talent show?
Yes, no, she was like on there with like the celebrities and she was on TV. So this is like a long time ago, years and years ago. She was the first. Her training is she's in Portland, certified cuddlers, I think, .com. So there's her training. She's just historically, she's just an important person in this work. And then you have the smaller schools. You have Cuddle Sanctuary out of LA. They actually have a cuddle community every week. They get together and they do group cuddling. And they have, of course, then practitioners that do one-on-one as well. But they have a space that they do the work in. And then Cuddle Party is really, if the original is Cuddle Party. Back, I think, in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, go back to 2004. That's like 14, 15 years
It was
now.
in the MySpace era because I heard about it when I was using a MySpace. I saw a video for it.
Okay.
Yes, it was around 2004.
Okay, so 2004, they started this cuddle party thing as a response to, they were doing massage parties and realized, you know, people just want to cuddle. And this is New York City, you know, a bunch of 20-year-olds who are like, we just want to hang out and cuddle together. So that was birthed, and that has been going on for a while, and then people were like, well, I'm feeling really socially anxious. I'm not going to go to a group event. I want one-on-one. There were some websites that popped up that were really sketchy. I won't even say the names. If you go under like cuddling and on Google, you'll find like, it just is really, really sketchy. Like the
That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah,
there's so when you really look at it, you're looking at like, how are people making money? How are the websites making money? That's what the kind of questions you want to know. I mean, you need to ask, what kind of training do the people that you're going to work with? I've had people come to me and tell me horror stories of, I went to this website, I hired a professional cuddler to come to my hotel, which again has a lot of implicit risk in it, like you're meeting a stranger in a hotel. But this was somebody who was not trained, who didn't know what they were doing, didn't understand their own boundaries, and the bad things happen, right? So ideally go with someone who has some level of training, who understands their own boundaries, who knows how to say no, especially with the dynamic we were talking about earlier on women and men, women being very complacent, is that the right word? Or like compliant is actually compliant. You know, especially if they're getting paid for something, like they're willing to, you know, like, well, I guess I got to do the thing that they asked me. Right? It's like, no, you don't. So if a woman doesn't have good boundaries, and if the man, I don't know, like it just gets really complicated really quickly. And so I'll have people say, well, this other person did this thing for me. They wore, you know, lingerie, and I'm like, I'm not wearing lingerie. Like that's not what I do. So it gets complicated industry-wise.
Yeah, and so So people are clear, where would you say that someone should go to find someone to help them with cuddling?
If you're in Portland, go to Cuddle Up to Me, which is Samantha Hass's organization.
Mm-hmm.
And she does certifiedcuddlers.com. If you're in LA, definitely go to Cuddle Sanctuary. Great. Like, those are city exclusive locations. If you're in the rest of the country, cuddlist.com has a bunch of people. Look at the different statuses. There's trained status and there's certified status. Trained status only means that they did the online work, but they never met a person. But some people don't really need to, I don't know, like do hands-on. Certified people have all done something hands-on. It used to be required that they had to do cuddle party, but no longer. So you can also see if they've done a cuddle party or not, so they have group experience. And you just have to ask questions, interview your people. Like, don't just go to someone just because, I don't know, they're cute in their picture and their profile. I mean, that's really what people choose. They go, oh, she's cute or he's cute, and they just pick the person that they think is cute. Like, if you're looking for a great experience, ask. And then, I don't know. I've heard stories of people, even within these people that are trained or certified, they do things that are outside of our code of conduct. And they need support. They need to know that they can say no. It's hard. It's really hard for someone. I've had issues early on. My first session ever, I remember walking away with a slight headache because the guy was pushing boundaries, but it was my first session. And I was like, oh shoot, okay. And so it was difficult. In one of my sessions that first year, some guy pulled out his cock. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, okay. But there at least knew, like, oh, session is done. And I walked out. Like, actually I was at his place, so I never felt scared. It was just more like, oh, you've just ended our session. Thank you so much for, the 30 minutes that we had. That's it. So again, it's learning how to, navigating those kind of spaces.
What does a cuddle party look like? Ooh. Yeah, because you brought this up earlier and I was just intrigued.
So anyway, I have one on Sunday if you'd like to come.
Cool.
Sunday morning.
Very cool.
You come for free. Anyway, so it's 3 hours. First hour is...
That's a long time.
It's not. Well, first hour is workshop.
Okay.
Right? Because we're trying to change the culture. Each cuddle party is intended on, like, how do we get people to be able to take the rules of cuddling into life? Because they're really life rules. It's how to say yes. How to say no. What does maybe mean? Maybe means no. If you're not sure, just say no. And it's okay. And then, like, how to change your mind. Or it's okay. It's always okay to change your mind at any time. And there's a bunch of other little rules, but these are life rules, things that people need to practice. So for the first hour, we're learning about them. We're learning what no means. No is not personal. If someone tells you no, it's their business. It's not really about you. And then from there, we practice these where there's very little at stake, right? Like at a cuddle party, you're going to be with a bunch of strangers, probably, and you can mess up. And you can practice, and you can try things out, and you know that, you're not going to walk out of there with anything lost. Because they're not your friends, they're not your family, they're not your lovers. It's okay. So it's like, here's a chance where you can ask for what you want. How about if you have a really hard time with rejection? Well, why not come to cuddle party and get rejected 10 times? Just feel it, and then come talk to me, and I'll help you process that, because that's what my job is when things show up, I'm here, let's talk. So it's an opportunity to learn the rules and then practice them for 2 hours afterwards. So 2 hours of looking at a room full of people and going, okay, I'm going to pick somebody. I'm going to ask them if they'll give me a back massage, or I'm going to ask if I can give them a back massage, or I'm going to go up to somebody and say, hey, can I sit next to you and hold your hand? It's not really necessarily have to be cuddling. And here's the other thing people don't realize. You never have to cuddle at a cuddle party. If you want, you can just sit there and voyeur the whole time. And that's okay too. I've actually had someone sleep the entire time. That's what they wanted to do. I'm like, hey, if that's your thing, that's cool.
Wow. That's intense. 3 hours. So how does this impact people's lives with their partners?
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah?
So people will often come to a cuddle party, not just once, not just twice, like 10 times.
They're in
20 times. They come.
It's addictive.
It's like they come because they're like, every time I come, I'm practicing a new skill. Like I'm still having a hard time telling somebody no. So then they go home. They're like, okay, it's okay for me to ask. Like, I just need to ask. Like, I need to actually verbalize what I'm feeling or thinking. So it changes how people not just interact with their partners, how they interact with everybody, with other family members, with work. At work, people are like, shit, I can ask for what I want at work. The worst thing that can happen is they'll tell me no. And guess what? I'm going to survive. Often we're so scared of the no, we think, oh no, if they tell me no, I'm dead. Or like the shame, oh, it's like, no, there's no shame. It's okay. And so it's building that resiliency and the confidence that you're talking about with your organization. It's like, it's okay for you to be you.
Yeah, I say that a lot. I mean, not in the same context as you, but it's okay to fail. Like, what is failing really? Like, it's just an opportunity.
Information.
Yeah, it's just more information. Like, oh, well, that's not. Maybe my approach was wrong, or like maybe I asked the wrong person, or maybe I'm not with the right person. Like that opens up a whole like series of questions, I'm sure, for people.
Like maybe it wasn't what I wanted, but like maybe we can negotiate something else. So there's 3 different ways to ask for something.
Okay, please.
So I can say, let's see, Giancarlos, may I rub your head? Is that what you call it?
My head, yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, like, my head, my scalp.
Your scalp, may I rub
my head.
Or I could be like, Giancarlos, would you play with my hair?
Yeah.
Or we could be like, the third way, which is the way people forget, it's like, hey, could we figure out a way to like massage our heads? Like, could we do that together? So or it'd be like, may I give you a hug? Would you give me a hug? Can we share a hug? Right, that's the third. So the third one allows for there not to be any kind of ownership taking, but like, it's like when we have a shared experience. See, so that it's both. Do you see the different ways?
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
So one of the things, so if I ask you, I'll just do hugs, that's simpler. May I give you a hug? Mm-hmm. Basically, I'm asking for permission, and it's like, may I give you a hug? And it's putting it on you. Let me think of actually.
No, I get what you're saying. It's like saying that like if you don't do this, you're shutting me down. That's like also a part, right? Because when you ask that question that way, it can't not be. Go ahead. No.
So like, maybe we go back because I'm thinking, I'm processing this through. So like, may I give you a hug? It's like, I have a need. I'd like to give you a hug. May I give you a hug? Or maybe I think you have a need, but like, it's still about me. The other one is, would you like a hug? Take some of the ownership away. It's like, I'm gonna take, like it's focused on you. They both feel very different to me. Often with somebody, my practice with myself is, I want to be vulnerable. It's really scary, like to tell you what I want. Like, I need a hug. Would you give me a hug? Like, would you do this for me? That's scary and vulnerable to say, like, I have a need. As opposed to be like, hey, can I give you a hug? It's super easy for me because like I don't have to show you that I'm actually having a need here. I can presume to make it about you. And the third one is like, well, can we share one? It's a little bit lighter. It's like, hey, can we share a moment? Can we share a hug? It feels different. So it's just really depending on kind of what we're trying to accomplish. So 2 very important questions we need to ask people or ask ourselves is, who's touching who? So as you can see, let's talking about us right now. I would just, out of my own sense, would be like, oh, you're touching me, right? Because your hand's on top of mine. Mm-hmm. And the second question that's really, really important is, who's benefiting? It's a question that we never ask, and extremely important that we if it's somebody that we love or we care about, family, friend, or whatever, lover, then we kind of figure that out, right? Because like, who's benefiting? And oftentimes, because we don't know, this is not honesty. So for right now, I would say, I don't know who would be benefiting. I'm benefiting because I'm wanting to show the world, like, hey, you can touch and hold hands, and that's great. You may say I'm benefiting in a way as well. Well, like when massage happens, say you're in a couple, you can tell your partner, hey, I'd love to give you a massage. So ideally, like if you're giving the massage, you're giving the massage to them, you're doing the touching. The question is, who is benefiting? Oftentimes, in giving a massage, the person that's receiving the massage benefits. Is like, that's the idea, like, I'm giving you a massage for your benefit. Mm-hmm. That can be really, can have a lot of problems.
Okay, go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because suddenly the person receiving the massage has to make some really important decisions. what if I don't like it? Do I direct them and tell them what I want? Like, I have to, do I have to pretend like I like it if I don't like it? How long is this going to last? And it maybe feels really good, and it's like, great, I want it to continue forever. Like, whatever. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot. And so if you're with somebody who has a hard time communicating to begin with, communicating what they like, what they don't like, they're going to endure. They're going to, like, just put up with. And the whole time it was for that person, right? So if they're not good at communicating, and this can be like massage or sex or whatever, right? So
yeah.
So then what happens if the person that's giving the massage is doing it for their benefit? This is like the piece of this kind of is what I prefer to do with my clients. So when a client and I are doing touch, I invite them, touch me. I'm giving you permission to touch me for your benefit. And that's like, whoa, I've never done that before. That's selfish. Or I'm told that's wrong. I'm like, no. It's actually not wrong. It's liberating for me. It's a relief because now I don't have to show you that I like it. It has nothing to do with me. So like, here's my arm or here's my hand. There's something called hand caress, which is a sensate focus exercise.
Okay.
For 3 minutes, you have access to my hands, and you touch my hands for your interest, for your curiosity. And when they do that, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I get to not only enjoy the touch, I get to enjoy them enjoying my hand, and I don't have to ever give the appearance that I like it. Or that it's, like, I never have to fake it, like, oh, that feels so good. It doesn't matter what I think. It's not for me. It's for them. And it empowers them to really get into their bodies and do what feels good for them. It allows me to have my own experience that they don't have to be performing for me or taking care of me. I'm going to take care of myself. And I get to enjoy their pleasure. Like, there's a word called compersion.
I've never, please tell me.
It's the opposite of jealousy, which is like when I get to receive joy from somebody else's joy. So if I watch you working out, whatever, you're so happy, and I'm just watching you, I'm like, wow, I feel really good for you.
Yeah.
Like or if like, let's say, this is often used in polyamory and like non-monogamous relationships, where the one person's with somebody else, and the person that's not, like, who's watching it, part of the couple, can feel really a lot of joy for their partner being with somebody else, because it feels really good to see them happy. So for me, I get a lot of the compersion of seeing somebody really enjoying my body, my hand, my face, my hair, for their interest, or curiosity, or pleasure, and I don't have to ever. It's not about me. And so then again, it's for therapeutic reasons. It's really, really important. And so the people, again, going back to my 2 questions: who's touching who, and who's benefiting? Mm-hmm. It's important that just that piece of like, hey, so I'm gonna do a massage. Like, I'm gonna benefit. I'm gonna take it. It's controversial. I think it feels a little subversive for someone to own that they're just gonna do it for their own pleasure. But permission needs to be given, right? Like the person that's giving the body part needs to also say, like, I'm giving you permission.
Yeah, and
to explore.
It has to come from a very I'm legitimately okay with it place, which is a gray area for a lot of people, which we talked about earlier, which is just, I mean, we're kind of getting at it, but it's complicated.
Because we're not honest. I guess this is, again, going back to like the communication piece. Touch isn't just touch, it's about communication, really. Mm-hmm. Because we're not honest about pleasure. Were you going to say something?
No.
Like all of it. Like we're scared to talk about touch. That's what cuddle party is all about. You know, we're scared to engage in touch. We feel like we have to take it because there's scarcity around touch. Like, what if touch isn't there anymore? What if this person chooses to leave me? What if I'm not going to have them in an hour? Like, whatever. Like, I got to take everything, right? So there's a lot of fear and scarcity around it. So we have all these parts to it. And if we just could talk about it and say, like, hey, let's hang. I'd love to put my arm around you, and I really just want to enjoy your warmth for me. What do you want? What would feel good to you? And, like, negotiate that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so much goes into that. The fear of rejection. Oh, God, that is tricky. So I guess your aim would be to resolve that, or to make it so that people feel more comfortable. I mean, that's what you're actively doing, right? That people feel more comfortable expressing what they need, and then also that people know what they need. Because that's another, we talked about that off camera, about how oftentimes people don't know what they need or are afraid of what they need.
So
Can
how
you
do you
speak to
find
that?
out? Yeah, how do you find out what you want or need? You have to know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then accept that person. Like, there's a lot of shame about, like, okay, I guess this is who I am, but I'm embarrassed, or I'm sorry about this, or we're apologizing for ourselves. Be you. What do you, like, once you discover, like, this is just who I am, this is how I navigate the world, this is what feels good. Yeah, these are the parts of my shadow side. Parts aren't so great, but there's trauma there, or there's, childhood of shit, right? Like wounds. All right, cool. This is just who I am right now, and what I would need is this, or what I would want is this, and then the want splits into two parts. So there's the expressed want. I can tell you, I really would like for you to kiss me on the cheek, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that I could ask for, or I don't have to ask for it. I could just feel like, that would feel really good. And just leave it as a want. And just like enjoy the want for what it is, and let it be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have to do anything about it. Again, it's our Western culture, our capitalist or whatever it is that like says, okay, I have this want, I have to have it met, I have to go out and get it and fulfill the want. And it's like, you don't have to either. Like, you can have a want and just bask in the deliciousness of like, wow, that feels really good, and just leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, desire itself is something that's nice. Just like wanting and like sitting around like lingering and thinking about something. I mean, there's something really there's something really satisfying about that people don't realize is satisfying.
And just leaving it there and not
the ability to want, is go ahead.
And so then maybe you decide to ask somebody, and maybe you don't. That's okay to just. And then if you ask and they say no, it's nothing to do with you. They give you really good information, and if you feel like you have the courage to say, well, is there anything that you would say yes to?
Mm-hmm.
Then negotiate something. I mean, it's a conversation. It's not about. It's about that relationship, about connection. And we're just in our society, we've just lost on the connection piece.
So that is what you facilitate, helping people be able to connect with other people more effectively, wouldn't you say?
At least they can connect with me.
Yeah.
And then from there they can navigate that in what feels best for them. Unfortunately, I've had people tell me that I've ruined them. And this is, again, going into allowing my shadow side of all this. Like,
please.
Once they learn how to do all these things, it's like, shoot, now I'm in a world. I've put them in a place in the world where they're really good communicators. They're acting out of integrity. And, like, I'm alone. Because not everybody acts like this. And they're the trailblazers, right? Like, then you pass it on, teach it. Like, if we all start doing this, the world's a better place. But it's like, it has to start somewhere. I'm multiplying myself. But it's really scary because once they realize how awesome it is, they're like, wow, I don't have to play games anymore. I can just tell somebody what I'm thinking or feeling.
We were talking a little bit earlier about men and like pickup artists. I was talking about that, about how there's complications with how men and women communicate. This is off camera. And there's this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And in that book, are you familiar with it? It's by Mark Manson. He talks about how he had taught men for years how to meet women using kind of like these tricks and things like that. And through the process of doing that, he realized that those things worked, but that he wasn't creating genuine relationships with the people that he was meeting, and that it was leaving him feeling like really empty. And essentially now he's in this like fulfilling relationship and things like that because he's been honesty. I think is it radical candor? No, I don't think that's the right word for this. Just radical honesty. Radical honesty, yeah, of just really like just being out there. That's really scary to people. It's compromising to you. It's scary to people who don't understand the rules of what that means, or where's this person coming from? Like, how can this person be so upfront? So I can see how someone. Go ahead.
There's a tipping point. So
Okay.
I'm gonna use my
No,
hands
go
here.
ahead.
So like, okay, if you've been in the lie, I don't know. It's like the social, how we've all lived, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah. The
conditioned to,
social
like,
face. Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, you never tell anybody, really feeling, really thinking, you want people to like you, you follow through with the emotions, right? It's like this. And then as you start to say things, practice cuddle party, or this is who I am, and it's okay for me, and giving yourself permission, at some point you hit this tipping point where, so it hurts to tell the truth at first, but once you start doing that, at some point, it hurts to tell a lie.
Yeah.
You can't go back anymore. It's like, oh shit, now on this side, where are my people? The people aren't always there, right? But like, I personally can't go back. Like, there's absolutely no way. It physically, viscerally, like, in my body, I'm like, oh shit, like, no. My body's like, hell no.
It feels gross. Yeah.
It does. Like, I can't, I just physically can't. And people are like, I can't believe you just said that. I'm like, I cannot not say that. Like, that's just not, like, it's impossible. So, as you just practice, right? Yeah. So it does take practice. It's a reconditioning. It's, you know, like muscles. Oh my gosh, there's probably so many analogies here with like the physical body. Once you've trained your muscles a certain way, like maybe you may lose it, but you're gonna get it back more easily. It's just the body wants to be healthy. Like the spirit wants to be healthy. The spirit wants to be clear and transparent. It just feels good, like to wake up and be like, integrity. It feels good. I never have to tell a lie.
No, it's your life is more like fluid and comfortable that way, because we have all. I think all of us, and maybe you're not dealing with that now because of your line of work, but I think most of us have the lies that we tell ourselves about ourselves, and you know that could be rooted in negative thoughts that you have about yourself that aren't really all that accurate, or positive thoughts that you have about yourself that aren't accurate either, and the negative or positive stories that you tell other people. Right? And so we're all kind of like constantly playing those games in our lives. And, you know, this isn't to say anything bad about people. That's just what it is. We're writing our story. Right. And in the process of that, if you were to eliminate that and just be more real with yourself and start being more real with people, I would imagine that you would feel less tired psychologically. Like your brain would literally feel like everything runs more fluidly. Does that make sense?
Right.
Is that kind of like what you're saying or getting at?
So what I would like to tell people, because I realize that might be like, panic, I can't do that.
Yeah.
The first thing, this is a coaching thing, is, first thing you need to do.
She does this for a living.
I do this.
Yeah.
Is find out, okay, so let's figure out what the story is that you've believed and what you've tell people, and how has that served you? Because it does. It's provided great benefits. Like once we can first be honest about the benefits of that story.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, I'm laughing because I'm really thinking about this in myself right now. So
like
please.
How we're projecting in the world, and like how that's served you, and then how that's benefited you, and then asking the next question is it still serving you? Like, because shit, keep it. You get to choose. Like I'm not asking you to let it go.
Yeah. You don't have to.
You don't have to let it go until it no longer serves you. At that point, that's when you need to look at and go, is this one done? Can I let this one go? And that's when you're ready. It's like addiction. Like, you're not going to give it up until you're ready to give it up. Until it no longer serves you. And each person gets to decide that. It's when you're ready. Hopefully you have enough support in your life and people that love you, that if you tell the truth, they're going to stay with you.
And so this is kind of like something that you coach people through physically, but also that you coach people through when you're doing a talking session.
Absolutely.
Right?
Or even cuddling. I mean, cuddling isn't in silence. Like, we're talking and we're sharing life, and lots of things come up, and I'm like, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
And they're just like, it's not. And I'm like, what would you do differently? You know? And are you ready to do it? And they're like, I'm not ready. I'm like, it's okay.
Versus like therapy. We talked a little bit about therapy where it's like you're just kind of like just constantly hashing it out, reliving the story over and over again. Like there's a lot of people who would say that sometimes that's not useful. That you're just recapitulating the same shit you've been through over and this happened in my childhood and that's why I do this and this happens because of this. Like those are very different approaches.
And so people need that. I mean, there's
there's nothing. Nothing wrong with that at all.
If you've never shared your history, your story with somebody, it's awesome. Like, it's important to tell somebody, like, this is what happened to me. And then it's like, okay, now what do you want to do about you can live that, the choice, or not.
Janet, what are some of the other, do you want to talk about any other services, or is that pretty much good right there?
We've been talking a while. Yes, so I'm a surrogate partner as well. I'm like, oh geez, another thing that like add on to all of this. And that kind of brings all of this together, right? So a surrogate partner is, in this country, we do something called the triadic model. Because I do appreciate counselors and talk therapists and all that, and sexologists as well. They get clients that come in like they want to talk, and they need to. And then they're like, okay, but now they need to actually have the hands-on. Like they need a person that's going to be willing to do the touch, because they're not allowed to legally. And so, yeah, I deal with clients that get passed on to me that need someone to do the cuddling, or then we progress that, so maybe they need to do different exercises that are called sensate focus, which is getting the client to really focus on themselves, touch another person for their benefit, for their interest, curiosity, exploration. And then that just progresses little by little, depending on what their needs are. So if they're having intimacy issues, if they're having issues connecting, like responding well to other people, if they have anxiety around relationships, if they have even like physical issues like erectile dysfunction, or any kind of sex, something that's not medically,
something psychosomatic,
right, with their genitals or whatnot, then I would come in to like take them through this vigorous process. We slow everything down. We get them connecting with themselves, with their touch, seeing like what's going on, and then they periodically would reach out to the counselor, or the counselor would reach out to them, and that dynamic of like, okay, what's going on here, and then I would do the touch and the physical stuff. And you know, it's controversial because, I mean, there is sexual stuff that can happen, but that's definitely not something that's every client or from the beginning. That can be much, much, much later, if needed. And again, lots of people may not need that.
Yeah.
But it's seeing again the person as a complete person instead of dissecting them and being like only platonic touch. So I love that work because each client is its own unique person, and I get to see them as that person, and then together we figure out like, okay, this is the program, and then what do we need to do to adjustments to reach what your needs are.
It sounds like it's a much more holistic approach to the mind and dealing with trauma.
And it's moving people from point A to point B. Now, professional cuddling, I definitely want to make sure I'm clear, is that there is no need to move anywhere. Like, it's just about being present and just hanging out. Simple, right? Like, I'm not doing any therapy. I'm not trying to change you, make you something you don't want to be. Like, it's not about that at all. This is like people that are looking like, okay, I need help. I need support. I need to figure this out, and that's what it's there. It's more of an intensive situation, which a lot of people need. I mean, intimacy and sex and all that's really confusing. And then, just as those who are local, I have a sexuality group here. It's called San Antonio Embracing Sexuality, which is it's group stuff. Like I host my cuddle party in that group, and they are on Meetup, and we also are on MeWe. Those who know about MeWe, it's another social media platform that's on your phone you can download. And that's been really great for like people looking for this type of experience, but group stuff. So I can't help it. All the stuff that you've been hearing is part of what I bring to the group. But it's group interactive, and we're talking about sex. Like there, it's totally open to be yourself, talk about sex, talk about whatever. So yeah.
Awesome. So Janet, I think we're about to wrap it up. Is there any message that you would like for our viewers at home to take away from this today?
If it helps, which I'm gonna face them.
Go ahead.
Listen, all right. I'm giving you permission to be you. That it's okay that you are actually perfect as you are, or things are working. I mean, my hope is that things are working for you. If they're not working, you have the power to change them too. But first of all, giving yourself permission to be who you are, and that what you want and desire is good. It's good. I mean, I'm giving you permission to want and to desire things, to figure out what that is. And I think that's the most important message, that people can be themselves.
Beautiful. I love it.
And tell people about who you are. Yay.
Where can people find you, Janet, online?
So if you're definitely interested in looking at platonic touch, please come find me on YouTube. I have hundreds of videos at this point there that explain this work. And that's bit.ly/, YouTube Janet, all in lowercase, if you're looking for a quick link, or just look up Janet
It's in,
Trevino.
I put it in the description section
Awesome.
of this video.
All right, cool, thank
Yeah.
you. And then I'm on Facebook. I mean, it's a lot of personal musings and stuff. If you're easily offended, don't go there, because I just talk about whatever I want. And that's my profile. My page is where I do my live videos, and then I post those live videos on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. It's at Touches Medicine, because my business is Touches Medicine. I am creating a podcast, so that's where the podcast stuff is at. I'm collaborating with she's a doctorate. She's a doctorate in communication. She's a professor here in San Antonio, and together we're having conversations around making touch accessible and smart. Right, so we're bringing those two pieces together. So be watching out for a podcast at some point. I'm sure if you're following me, you'll see about that. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. I'm trying to think of anywhere else. I'm on Patreon. Support me, please. That's about it.
Sweet. So Patreon, how can people, patreon.com/
You know what, I should
Oh, it's okay. I'll post it. You just send it to me and I'll post it in a link.
But if you just Google me, you'll find all sorts of things. And if you follow any of my YouTube channel, like my descriptions have all that information too.
Awesome. And all right, people, that's pretty much it for the Total Body Training Podcast today. Until next time, peace. Bye.
So I went from a size 16 to a size 6'7", and I've lost currently about 60 pounds with TBT.
I've lost 60 pounds since I started here, and the body fat that I've lost is 16.2%.
I've definitely noticed a lot in like those hard to reach areas. The muffin top, the back fat is really slimmed down for me.
The weightlifting, it's definitely kept me toned, and it's definitely kept me confident to where I can, show my legs because I have great quads, with TBT, or my arms because I can pull myself up or lift. Total Body Training offers a one-time free training session. So you come in, you get a great workout, and you can decide if you want to join, and definitely you're going to want to join because you won't regret the free workout.